Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is another episode of Making HM1 in 2021. This is Ryan. BUMED instruction 6448.5 Delta is pretty fatty. So I'm just going to break this one down into chunks. So Chapter 2, we're going to be talking about readiness. I may go on to Chapter 3 as well, but we'll see where the minutes are at after Chapter 2. So Chapter 2 is all about readiness and the reporting. It defines MParts, which is NAVMED's designated official readiness tracking reporting system. And it has the data that comes from Dimmer's Eye, and there's a little flow sheet right here. So MParts gets your fleet temps, Dimmer's Eye, and NTIMS data. That goes into RCRP, which gets defined a little bit later in the chapter. That goes into DIRS M, and then JMAR DIMLs up here. Let's see, it talks about SOPs for MParts when this website link. MPart support team is out in Jacksonville. So again, this is kind of just the flow sheet. So RCRP is the readiness and cost reporting system, which it says here that's a development to serve as a bridge to bring authoritative data from disparate DoD and Navy sources that are not approved directly to interface with DIRS. So DIRS is Defense Readiness Reporting System, which I think is kind of self-explanatory. So DIRS is like the big thing, but MParts is the big part of it too. Navy used the DIRS M as the authoritative system to meet DoD's requirement to report readiness. Talks about status and availability of resources for personnel, equipment, supply, ordnance facilities, so everything. So if you look, so RCRP is the authoritative system to meet DoD's requirement for readiness. So remember that one. It's the authoritative system. But then it defines MParts as the NAVMED's designated official readiness reporting and tracking system. So you see the difference? This one is NAVMED. This one is DoD. I think that is the big distinction that I'm going to remember, the keyword. So MPart NAVMED. And just for one more time with the feeling, so MPart's NAVMED. DIRS is all of DoD. And it talks about how it's an aggregate tool. Basically, fancy way of saying it compiles all the other information into one pretty report. Personnel, equipment, supply, and training is an NAVMED's job. There's a couple reporting tools. I think on like Blue Jacket tier, these two are heavily emphasized, so something to think about. So accountability tool captures assignment and personnel reporting information and provides a feedback loop. I think the key word for me to remember accountability tool is feedback loop. So accountability tool creates that feedback loop. They can look at operational assignments to increase readiness. It's a spreadsheet. Yay, Excel. Then accountability drill provides M9, which M9, if you remember from the later video, I wrote it down here. M9 is the Assistant Deputy Chief of Capabilities and Requirements. So the accountability drill just provides M9 information. So it's not a loop. So by loop, accountability tool means it goes both ways. But the accountability drill is just a tool that they can use to go look at data. I think about that as the difference between using like Joe's for customer service versus the ICE system. Joe's, you can look at data. ICE system, you can actually manipulate data and you can respond to comments and stuff. So the big takeaway for me is that accountability drill is just info, and the accountability tool is that loop. And again, with any Navy stuff, you like to hear about your timelines. Accountability tool template must be forwarded to M9 within 24 hours of an official Navy message initiating a drill. Training exercise report provides BUMED with information about attendance and rate for training exercises. When they do the exercise report, the accountability tool must be forwarded to, again, BUMED M9 Assistant Deputy Chief Capabilities Requirements within 5 business days of the completion of the training exercise. So 5 days after the completion. So deployment readiness administration. So look, 6440. 6440, same as the instruction. So 6440/1 is an individual deployment readiness checklist. Individuals need to contact their POMI if there's any delinquent items or change of status. And the company commander or CCMD will provide additional, more specific guidance for security clearance, uniform, anything else they may need. Non-deployable status. So non-deployable status can only happen if it's a temporary condition. Reason being, if you're permanently non-deployable, you're probably not going to be in the military for much longer. Let's see. So if someone on a platform receives that temporary duties or is a non-deployment activity, Echelon 3 must make sure that spot is filled. And then once that non-deployable status is resolved, typically the person returns. So it's not like you're non-deployable, your replacement's there, and they're stuck with your deployment. It's once you're medically ready, that swaps back. And if however, if that non-deployability is over 90 days, the person can't go back. So just remember, 3 months is how long you can be non-deployable. And if you're already deployed, you're going to lose your spot unless it's over 90 days. See, so in coordination with the detailer, personnel will be detailed out of the platform, pasted in a billet without an associated bin, and replaced by another qualified member. So I'm starting to think that this acronym right here, the ASSOC_bin, I know it was described in the last video, but I'm starting to think that that is your designated, this person can deploy here number. But again, please, if there's any like chiefs or someone watching, I would love it if you could comment saying what exactly that means. I tried looking it up. I tried Googling. I couldn't really find out what... I found out the definition in this instruction, but I couldn't find out what it actually meant. When I Googled it, I just came up with a bunch of flashcards that people made studying this instruction. If the person has a permanent condition, they won't stay. So obviously if it's permanent, it's not going to get resolved in 90 days. The sourcing command POMI must ensure that there's an accurate depiction of their numbers. All the individuals' information needs to be updated in parts within 2 business days of notification. So anything POMI needs to bring up immediately. That's it for chapter 2. I got my lavender chamomile tea I'm sipping on. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do another chapter. Let me pull it up on my notes. Chapter 3, Manning. I think the big thing about this number is, or this chapter, is the precedence of MARFOR, or a precedence of what deployed spots need to be filled up. So here you go. Personnel assigned to sourcing command zone or to a billet with a specific billet identification number. The intent is to oh, there we go. So the intent of that associated billeting number or billet identification number is to identify requirements for warm time contingency platforms in order to establish and facilitate optimum platform readiness. So to me, it looks like that's kind of like the fallback number where if we need you, this is where you're going. Person can only have one at a time, which makes sense because if it's saying, hey, in the event you're going to this deployment, we don't need multiple people in one spot. So it looks like it's specific, your billet, what you personally will be doing. Here's that precedence. I got to come up with an acronym for this one because I do think that this is probably the most important thing to know. I'd say if not this chapter, the whole instruction, because it's so just out there. For me, this kind of stuff is hard because I don't really know what exactly these are. But I think if you remember that, because again, remember it's multiple choice. So if you tag it down to 50%, if you remember from my profile sheet video, you only need to get about 60-70% right to do really well on the test. So if you're guessing, if you remember what like 1 through 4 are, and you know that none of those are the answers, And if there's one that you don't recognize, you can probably identify that 25% pretty easily. So if you think Marine Force is number one, I like to think about it from all like the Moto FMF guys, that they're all about the Marines, being with the Marines. Green Side's the bomb, met a few of them. And that's kind of what sticks to me. Marine Corps number one. Marine Forces MARFOR number one. Number two, Casualty Receiving and Treatment Ship, so the CRTS. TAH, which is hospital ship. I don't know what that stands for, but I know the TAHs are the hospital ship. You got your EMF, I think Expeditionary Medical Facility. FDP-MU, I don't know what that is. OCONUS Military Treatment Facilities, and Blood Processing Units. So again, if you have no idea what you're looking at, but you recognize that Marines are one of them, Casualty Receiving and Treatment Ship is another one, Hospital Ship's one, EMF's one, FDP-MU's one, OCONUS MTF is one, Blood Processing Unit. Just really try to focus on at least half of them. If you know like number one is Marine Forces and number 7 is Blood Processing, if the question is which of these would be filled first, if you know it's not the blood, you just can process of eliminate it. Let's see. So there's 2 additional requests for extra people. They can either do a request for forces, RFF, or a request for support as RFS as a solution, which there's a lot of paperwork they have to do. Leadership, that's going to get tasked by the Council of Corps Chiefs at BUMED, and that's how they find out CO, XO, DFA, DNS, CMC. Temporary additional duty just defines that. So Echelon 3 activities must be notified of all of that temporary additional duty that's greater for 30 days to personnel assigned to platforms, no later than 30 days before the requested start date. So just make sure that gets routed up. So responsibilities, specialty leaders, they work with NPC to identify appropriate replacement. POMIs need to make sure that deployment personnel readiness is updated, maintained, and accurately entered in end parts. So again, POMI, they're checking the end part stuff. They're validating the appointment status after they complete that the pre-deployment checklist, the 6440/1. And if they're non-deployable, work with the individual to try to fix them. So the process is if someone's non-deployable, it's not, oh my gosh, kick this dude out immediately. It's, we're going to work with you and find out what can we do to get you rolling. So it's not like if you're a little bit hurt, you're gone. They try to work with the person because it could take a while to get a replacement. Members' responsibility. So complete that NAVMED 6440/1 within 30 working days and just keep up with the requirements. Medical dental appointments need to be made within 30 days upon check-in. Let's see. Tasking. BSO 18 may need to mitigate competing mission requests. So again, if there's a lot of stuff going on, BUMED, M9, and OpNav are going to be the ones that that determine how priority something is. But the final prioritization will be tasked to Echelon 3 through a Navy official message. So again, here's the request for forces, and let's see, RFS. Let's look at that one more time. I think that was down. There you go. Request for forces versus request for support. So request for forces originates from the competent command or component commander through the joint staff. The request for support is a Navy to Navy request, 30 days in support of exercises. So think request for forces is joint. Request for support is Navy. I like to think of that as support just means, hey man, we need help. So under 30 days, or request for forces, hey man, we need forces. We don't need support, we need forces. Here's the tasking process. So the the USFF and OpNav request BSO 18 personnel. See. So when looking at requirements, M9 is the one who's going to determine the due date that affords Echelon 3 with as much time as feasible. So it's not just, hey, this dude's leaving tomorrow. They try to give them time. It gives Echelon 3 a lot of leeway by just saying as much time as feasible. So M9 needs to task Echelon 3 pretty quick. Let's see, I think it says within 2 working days. Where's that at? There we go. So M9 tasks Echelon 3 as soon as possible, but no later than 2 working days after getting that official notification from OpNav or USFF. Email or phone is authorized for contact that information. For whatever reason, system's down, unable to generate that naval message. If that happens, the naval message needs to follow within 24 hours, but they're not stuck with following that. They can just directly call or email the region. Let's see. I'm trying to look for like the big stuff because there's a lot of little details in that. I think one of the most important things that I've learned through the many times I've taken the HM1 exam is to try to pinpoint what information I think will be really important. Like right here. So extensions. Echelon 3 must submit all requests for extensions no later than 3 business days. Let's see. Vetting. I mean, if you know what the word vet means, it's kind of self-explanatory. So how to screen individuals for platforms and IA messages. This is where this is in the instruction. I have seen this many times through studying, through Blue Jacketeer. What is the vetting process? Man, I remember the first time I read this instruction, I was trying to find it. And just as many times as I tried to read and reread, my eyes just kind of glassed over it. I think priority order is the other super important thing. This is number 2 because it's how they screen someone to go on these IA message. So number 1, waiver. Number 2, substitution. Number 3, Reclama. So WSR, if you want to think. Actually, if you think like the letters, they go backwards in alphabetical order. So WSR, waiver, substitution, reclamation. There's a lot of timelines in here. Waivers, here we go. So waivers, rank pay grade. So can we waive that? Medical. So again, this is all stuff that the military can try to waive to someone on deployment. A lot of waivers. Trying to find the next. Where's D at? So waiver, substitution. So that's where they're trying to swap people out. Which again, this vetting process kind of makes a lot of sense. So, hey, we need somebody to go. If this person's not 100% ready, let's sign a waiver. The easiest thing to do is get them a waiver and send them. Unless they're 100%, they should not be doing this. So if it's one of those like, you'll be okay if you go on this op, let's put in a waiver, send them up. If that doesn't work, okay, let's find a substitution. So who can we send instead? And if that doesn't work, Reclama. Let's see. And the Reclama is the official notification from Echelon 3 saying we cannot send somebody. And the two justifications for Reclama, however you pronounce it, is 1, we have tried to waive everything, did not work, we have nobody. Or if that substitution process has been completely exhausted, which again falls into we have nobody. So again, waiver, substitution, Reclama. I would say knowing that order and knowing the order of precedence in Chapter 2, probably the 2 most important things in this instruction, or earlier in Chapter 3. I'd say even more important than the form, even more important than all the timelines. Remember waiver, substitution, reclama. Remember that order, which let me pull up. I don't have it memorized yet. It seems like my backwards WSR is pretty easy for me to remember, but this one, MARFOR number 1, casualty receiving and treatment ship, hospital ship, EMF, FDPMU, OCONUS MTF, blood processing unit. The only one of these I have no idea what it is the FDPMU, which actually, let's scroll back to the acronyms. Let's see if it's on there. There we go. So I guess that kind of made sense from the PMU. So the FDPMU is a forward deployed PrevMed unit. So let's again go back up to those 3 sections. So Marine Forces, casualty retrieving treatment ships, hospital ship, expeditionary medicine unit, forward deployed PrevMed, OCONUS MTF, so MTFs that aren't in the continental US, and blood processing is the last. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Let me know if it helped. Give me a subscribe, give me a like. Again, I am falling really behind and catching up on stuff with school, so I will put notes eventually when I can. But make your own notes. For me, writing notes physically helps. Again, all of this I'm doing for me, not so much for you guys. But if it helps you, dope. Just to be completely blunt, this is all for me. But I hope this does help you. Again, if you got any comments or any ways to remember, if someone's got a good acronym for the priority order, let me know. Have a good one.